Welcome to Austin on the Air, candid conversations about air filtration and air quality and the impact it has on children and adults at school, work, and home. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Austin on the Air. I'm your host, Stacey Mal, and today I'm excited to welcome Rikki from the Air Purifier Store, an Austin Air dealer for about 10 years now. Rikki has such an amazing story to share about how their family business got started and how they're making an impact in the lives of so many. So thanks so much for joining us, Rikki.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be on this.
Good. So maybe we could just start, I guess, at the beginning with how this all kind of got started for your family. Your dad started the business about 10 years ago. Yep.
Yeah.
But it's kind of a unique journey, right? So, I mean, because he was a software consultant.
He was. Yeah.
So tell me how, and I guess more importantly, why he went from software consultant to starting a business called the Air Purifier Store.
Absolutely. So, yes, he was a software consultant, big VP, always traveling to different countries like China and negotiating and things like that. He did that pretty much my whole life since I was born. So he was always present, but also always on travel. And so growing up, me and my family always struggled with allergies. I mean, I think a lot of families just do. And maybe they don't think about it very often because it's just normal. Like I grew up in New England, pollen, oh, it's allergy season. Like it's just everything's yellow and you don't really think about it. You just kind of suffer through it and then you're done. And my mother's always suffered from COPD. She has bronchitis. She has asthma, the whole thing. So health and well-being has always kind of been in our, in our family blood, but it definitely wasn't something we were focusing on at the time. So Dad decided about 10 years ago that he wanted to open his own business. He was tired of, having to travel all the time and not being able to have time with his not mine, but my brother's son, so his new grandkid. And he wanted to be a little bit freer, and he decided to open an online business. To build the website from scratch, which was something new for him, even though he is a software engineer. It's a whole different thing when you're building it yourself. And he was looking in the market and doing a lot of research for things that were healthy, could help people overall well-being, whether that be, I don't know, vacuums, humidifiers, medical devices. Like he kind of was playing with a bunch of different topics and doing some research, and he decided on air purifiers and thought, wow, wouldn't that have been great to have in our house growing up with all the stuff that we had going on. And so he did. And he struggled a little in the beginning, kind of pushed forth in the business, and wasn't really sure if it was gonna work or not. It was just him, one-man show, running the whole website, kind of playing or had on all the hats, playing all the different people, and COVID hit. So when COVID hit, I mean, the bubble was just insane and the demand was insane, and it ended up kind of skyrocketing him into a position where he had no choice but to start looking for help. And so we brought on a family friend. Her name's Wendy. She's amazing. She does our customer service and sales. And then I decided to join at some point due to COVID. So I used to work for another company, but.
Okay. So you joined about then 5 years ago.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's fascinating, and it's just wonderful, I think, because your story, your family story of how the Air Purifier Store came to be, it just naturally aligns with Austin Air's story, how our founder, Richard Taylor, he literally built the first Austin Air Purifier, our flagship product, the Austin Air HealthMate, for a similar reason, to help a loved one breathe better because there were breathing issues there. So I think it's incredible how that naturally just kind of, yeah. I wanted to ask too, I know you came on 5 years ago, the business started 10 years ago. So you weren't working with your dad when the business first started, but do you remember hearing about the Austin Air onboarding process, what it was like? Did your dad mention that, or did you witness how that went? I mean, I ask only because I think, a lot of people that are becoming a dealer or thinking about becoming a dealer, they have this thought that it's this long, overwhelming process, but it's actually more simple than it sounds. Do you know if that was his experience?
So I do know about his experience with all of the companies that came on prior to me, because I have personally had to help onboard other, newer companies since
Okay.
I've been on. And so in the beginning, he explained to me that, there was, with other manufacturers, there was a lot of footwork. He had to do a lot of following up. He had to push really hard to try to prove himself and earn the right to be a dealer. I mean,
Okay.
it was a little difficult in the beginning, but he said that to get a hold of somebody in Austin was probably one of the simplest things he did. He just picked up the phone, called and sent an email, because he believed in doing it a little bit more personally and direct, even though you guys have a online thing where you can literally just say, we want to be a dealer, and you guys reach out. But he called and he spoke with Monica, who is still our
Okay.
account manager today. We still have
Okay.
a relationship with her today. And he said he made everything seamless. He said it was so simple. uh, you guys already had a pretty large and extensive, strong network of dealers.
Yep.
So he was
Yep.
able to do some research, kind of look at examples, see what other people were doing, just to kind of find out, how do I do this? But you guys had the dealer portal, which was a little bit more dated, but you guys have now literally made that thing into an upgraded, amazing resource for dealers. So he had all the pictures. He said he had all the research, all the documents. He didn't have to go search for it.
Yeah.
And he could call and talk to Mike about, problems too. That was one thing that he was really worried about, is, how do I start dealing with customers that may have questions or
Yeah.
concerns, or somebody who might be a little bit more in depth to work with. And he'd pick up the phone and call Monica. Monica would put him on with Mr. Mike, who is,
Yeah.
and Mike would bend over backwards to help the customer. It's always about the customer, with you guys. And he just said that not a lot of people back then were able to,
Yeah. Yeah.
offer that. And so he said it was super easy, super easy.
And that was going to be, my next question. Since you've joined the family business 5 years ago, what's your experience been with Austin Air customer service? Same as your dad's currently? I mean, it's one thing,
Absolutely.
that the onboarding goes smoothly, but to feel that the support remains consistent after the onboarding process, I feel is huge for dealers.
It is by far, it does not feel like you're joining a large corporation, which Austin is a large corporation. It's like joining a family. I'm never scared to reach out. I don't know if I'm allowed to mention names, but okay, I was gonna say, but Amber's obviously sales and operations. Amy's obviously in like returns and solutioning.
Mhm.
Sean, I mean, we send each other cute little gifts and memes in the morning to perk each other up when we're sending in orders. If I have something I need help with that's really difficult, I can jump on with Amy literally on a phone call and have her brainstorm with me to help me come up with a reasonable solution. I mean, you just can't do that with other
Yeah.
customers. I mean, with
Yeah.
other manufacturers. I definitely do feel like I'm part of the Austin family, and I feel like I'm never scared, and I always feel supported. You guys have everything
Good.
I need. Everything I
Good.
need.
That's one thing we do kind of pride ourselves on. When you call, you're not going to be getting a bot and have to press a bunch of numbers. Like we're going to talk you through it. We're going to help you the best that we can to make sure that
Absolutely.
you're prepared. Yeah. Um,
Absolutely.
I think one of the big things too, that people always ask or at least wonder about, when considering a new product for their catalog, is, can I sell it? Will this be profitable? And you guys do something called solutioning that I think is really, really
Mhm.
interesting. You talked to me a little bit about it before when we talked last. Can you tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about that? I just think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So, one thing about air purification that I did learn when I got into the industry real fast was that it's not always just a click and buy. Now, with some of the bigger names, they sell themselves. People already have had them in their homes for years. They say, my mom owned in Austin, everybody, and they just do come in and naturally buy without talking to us. But we do also pride ourselves in offering one-on-one experience, to try to offer comparisons, talking to people about their needs. Are they chemically sensitive? Are they noise sensitive? Do they care about
Yeah.
aesthetics or do they care about quality? How many do you need in your home? We do this, the CFM, and the calculations to actually find out, like, this is what you're going to need. And when people call in, I normally have the same couple of go-tos. And it almost seems like every single time I bring up the name Austin, they'll say, that is one that I've already started looking at, or that's one my healthcare provider told me to go out and look at. And so it makes the conversation kind of seamless because they already have info about Austin, or they've heard about how great it is from their friends or their doctor. So
Right. And at this point, air purification, it's no longer a luxury item, right? Is that your experience? It's a need for people, and not just
absolutely.
people. At once upon a time, it might have been the thing for people with asthma, but nowadays we're seeing so many other things other than breathing conditions with chemical sensitivities and things, I think.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. What does it mean for the Air Purifier Store, and I guess for your customers, to have a quality product that's right here. It comes right here in America.
Well, that's what I was going to say, to kind of tie back to the can you sell it? Not only do we solution and do people ask for it, but honestly, there are so many great standout points that sometimes tip somebody in one direction or another if they're weighing between different units or different, solutions. Being able to talk to a company that has been in business for, I don't say 30 years, I say 3 decades. 3 decades
Yeah.
just feels more,
Yeah.
momentous, but to be able to talk about a company that has been successful, leading, and hasn't changed in 3 decades because it works, and it just does exactly what it needs to do, and it's quality, and it's made in the USA. I just,
Yeah.
it really does kind of sell itself. But
Yeah.
those are all great qualities. And I have some people who don't like the way they look, that, they look big and clunky, or they look like this and that. And I always have to be like, do you want something that somebody designed to look pretty, that's made of plastic, that has all kinds of bells and whistles? Or
It's
do
gonna
you want
off gas.
something right that will
Yes.
die in 2 years? Or do you want something that literally you can pass down to your children because it will last you decades, that
That long.
they invest all their money into the production, the filtration, the
Mhm.
effectiveness, and the solidness of the frame. I'm like,
Yeah.
I would rather buy something where the money's going into that than the
Yes.
design. And that's
Yeah.
all it is. They're like, yeah, you're right. You're right.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think I think too, the other factor, and I don't know if you're experiencing this too, but from just being here in the US, the supply chain issues, the logistics. When there's a large demand, I think that really matters at that point too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It matters every day because you guys do ship within literally one business day, same day sometimes. And that already kind of, speaks for itself. But then again, with these issues going on in our country and with the delays and then COVID, it really did make a difference. People were
Yeah.
able to still get those devices that they so desperately needed without having to wait. Sometimes I had people waiting 3, 4, 5 months for different other manufacturers,
Yeah. Some people think, that selling a filter designed to last 5 years, like ours are,
Mhm.
instead of these filters that need to be changed every few months, might hinder repeat sales. But you guys found it to be quite the opposite, right?
Absolutely. Um, Again, I honestly think that's a selling point, and that's something that I use as a benefit. People feel confident in a product where somebody can say, our filters are going to last 5 years. Of course, we all know in the industry that that is in a specific type of application. We help tons of people in different environments, different applications, different uses,
Mhm.
so we know sometimes they don't last 5 years. We know that, and I'm honest with customers.
Yeah.
But then I get to
You're in
tell them
a
about
real situation, air quality situation. That's, yeah,
right
5 years in normal
usage.
everyday use. Yeah.
Right.
We've
But
got a
then I
mold or
tell them
wildfire.
about your proration. Sorry, I didn't mean, but that I just
Okay.
go right into that. I go right into the fact that, yeah, Austin acknowledges that. They know that, you're in a different situation. You're dealing with wildfires, you're dealing with this and that. And if you do have that issue, they're going to discount the product, the filter for you to be able to come back and get a new one sooner. And again, it just builds confidence and people feel secure. They feel safe being able
Yeah.
to do it that way. So I find it's a benefit,
Yeah.
absolutely a
And
benefit.
it's not just about repeat filter sales. Then I think, once they buy one unit, okay, yes, it's designed to last 5 years, but they're like, okay, now the air in my bedroom is so amazing. I need the air in my living room, in my kitchen, and my dining room to be amazing too. So I think the repeat sales comes from then units.
It does,
Yeah,
absolutely. And referrals, like I said, people call in,
referrals.
they say, my doctor's office was great. I asked them what that was. My mom has this. She told me I had to call in and I want one for my kids. So it does. It comes from referrals from units. It comes from the replacement kits, which by the way, Austin makes so easy. Having it in a kit also makes a difference. You don't
Yeah,
have to explain the schedule. They don't have to go take notes on the 10 different filters they have to go buy in 3 years.
yeah, yeah.
It's a kit. They love it. It's very convenient and just easy to do. But yeah.
Nice. So I mean, clearly we know, being an Austin Air dealer, it's a very profitable business move. But I think you and I both agree, and we've talked about it before, that it's not all about the profits, right? Obviously, it's about making a real tangible difference in people's lives who you're solutioning and talking
Mhm.
to. Which is why, your dad started this, which is why our founder started Austin Air. From your perspective, is it still the case all these years later, outside of your family that's now breathing better, now that we're post COVID? What's your experience, after that fact? Is it still a matter of day in and day out making a difference in people's lives? Talk to me a little bit about
Absolutely.
that, maybe.
Absolutely. Again, when I first joined the industry and started learning about air purification more than just, this is how it works, I started learning about the people that are out there suffering from so much more than just allergies and pet fur. Like, because you kind of don't understand how deep air quality concerns go until you start diving in and learning about it. And so I find that when I'm talking to people, I really am not talking to them about, well, what colors do you like? What this, what that. I'm talking to them about like, well, tell me how you struggle daily. Tell me how it's not helping you, like you can't sleep at night. Tell me, they're telling me their struggles and their pains and their things that keep them from having a good quality of life. And these units are helping with that and or resolving a lot of it.
Yeah.
I remember I had a grandmother call in once whose all of her grandchildren, I think she had like 3 or 4 grandchildren, they all were on the spectrum of some sort, right? So they were diagnosed with autism. And I remember she asked me specifically, what do you know about the links between autism, being on the spectrum, and like, air quality? Do you have air purifiers that can help with that? And I remember Monica had just sent me over some information because we were talking with schools. She was helping me with some school opportunities, and she sent me over something about a research I believe that Austin did with Harvard about the link between autism and or with breathing problems, and how in helping them breathe better at night can help with their concentration. It can help with all kinds of improvements in their life. And I sent that paperwork because it wasn't proprietary. I sent it to the lady, um, giving her something to read, that she saw a company invested in research to prove that these units can impact her grandchildren's lives. She was so grateful. She ended up buying one for each kid. She ended up buying one for each grandchild, a junior. Then she ended up buying a couple of the large ones for the mothers and fathers, so her kids.
Her kids.
And it really was just because Austin was able to, give me something that I could speak to on that, because I don't have any medical, history. I don't claim to, but being able to tell her that on the phone, like it felt really good to be able
Yeah.
to help her grandkids just
And
by helping.
we have, tons of data that we share with any dealer that needs it. I mean, we are clinically proven, so we have our own studies, and those, we have sheets on, we have a ton of information on that, but we're also always updating our blog with the newest, latest studies that other people are doing that involve, different things. So we are always trying to make it available to people. So I'm so happy that it was useful.
Absolutely.
And you guys you're an online business, you're e-com. So your demographic is essentially everywhere.
Right.
But you recently had something that hit close to home, right?
I sure did.
Maybe talk about that story.
I sure did. And I have to apologize in advance if I start crying, Stacy. So just, I'll let you know. But yeah,
I get you.
so I live in North Carolina. And I've always, for the last 5 years, seen the pain and devastation that comes from basically the West Coast when wildfire season comes around. That is something I've learned to expect from the industry. We prepare for it. We gear up for being open longer hours to support the West Coast, because we know the people in California are going to be, struggling basically, and reaching out to us and to everybody on this side. So I already had experience with that through the company, but this year, for the first time, I think ever, Canada, but also North Carolina, experienced absolutely devastating wildfires. And I remember that I was, one day I was taking calls, and I got a person that called in about how she couldn't stay in her home because there was smoke damage. There was smoke and soot. There was wildfires. There's always things burn. You don't know what's in the air. God. And so she was hopeless. And she felt like she had nowhere else to turn. And this, and then when I looked, I looked at where she was when I started building her order, because we ended up talking about the Austin Air Health Mate Plus and how that could help. She was in a town that I lived in. She was like an hour west of me, you know what I mean? And I knew her town, and I used to live there. Like, if I'd been there still, you never know what could have happened. And when you talk to people who have lost everything, and it's so close, they're your neighbors, they're people they're towns you've been to, knowing that I was able to explain to her how Austin could help, why it was a good unit, why I was confident that I could offer her that as a solution. It felt way more than just selling a unit. I mean, it felt like, because I just wanted to get up and drive over to that part of my state and help physically, but they don't let you in. There's a devastation area and all that stuff, and it's unsafe. But I felt like I could actually extend a hand to my fellow North Carolinians and hand them a lifeline, something that allowed them to stay in their homes and breathe without being scared, that they had stuff going in their lungs. Like, it was just, and it was a lot. I got a lot of calls that way. So I connected with a lot of people, and it was something I don't want to experience again, but I just felt so privileged that I could
and at
help
that point, it's like you said, it's not as much about selling a product. It's about helping people and making a difference, and a real tangible difference. You're offering them a solution and some hope to get back into their homes.
Absolutely. Yep. Life-saving. Some people said it was life-saving. Some people do. They call me back and they say, this changed everything. This allowed my kids and my family to stay in my home that I've been in for 50 plus years and not have to evacuate. That means a lot. That's very impactful.
And I think that's one thing that I love too. I mean, we hear so many stories. Obviously, the wildfires are a big one, and then flooding and mold. And then even just we have so many people that will write in and say, you know what, I haven't had an asthma attack in however long. This is
Mhm.
amazing. And it's things like that. And you're like, oh my gosh, it's not just like, oh, I breathe better. It's
Right.
my life has changed in some way,
Mhm.
which I think is huge. You know, you're not
Quality of
just,
life, absolutely.
yeah, yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. Um, I think that's a really uplifting and powerful place for us to probably end the podcast. But I want to make sure, is there anything that I didn't ask or bring up that um, you want to add? I mean, any advice for people out there that might be, on the fence thinking about becoming an Austin Air dealer, but just haven't kind of, moved forward yet? Is there any advice you could offer?
In case the listeners can't tell, it was probably one of the best decisions we made as a business in developing that partnership. I would say just don't think, do it. What are you worried about? Austin is a household name. They are present in the community. Like, you're just joining a giant family that's going to bring you in and give you everything you need, and it's going to bring traffic to your website. It's going to bring customers to your store. It sells itself, but then it allows you to learn more about it and to be able to do the kind of things that I got to experience, where I didn't just have to sell it to somebody anymore. I got to offer it as a ray of hope and as a gesture of a lifeline, basically, like a
Yeah,
lifesaver, a life preserver. And it's easy. You guys make it easy. I would say don't think, just do it. Why
nice.
not?
Why not? Exactly.
Yeah.
Before we sign off, can you tell our listeners where they can find the Air Purifier Store if they need a purifier, if they need some type of solutioning advice?
Absolutely. So we are obviously online. We are www.theairpurifierstore.com. So it's a long one. We're on Facebook, the Air Purifier Store, and we are on Instagram, the Air Purifier Store. And we're family run. We're not ginormous, so you usually will get to me or Wendy or sometimes Curtis, which is, you never know. But
Okay,
we'd love to talk to anybody that wants to just call and ask us. So
wonderful. Well, thank you for being an Austin Air dealer, and thanks for your time today. I really appreciate it.
thank you. Thank you. I'm super grateful for everything Austin has done for us and our business. You guys are amazing partners. We love being a dealer for you.
Right back at you. Amazing partner.
Thank
All
you.
right, that's it for today's episode of Austin on the Air. Huge thanks to Rikki from the Air Purifier Store for sharing it's really like to be an Austin Air dealer for the past 10 years. If you're a business owner looking to offer something that truly makes a difference and drives real results, there's never been a better time to become an Austin Air dealer. So thanks for listening, everybody. And as always, breathe easy.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Austin on the Air. For more information on air filtration, air quality, and respiratory health, visit austinair.com.